it's Michelle and welcome back to my channel. So I know I was a little MIA last week and I did not post a DIY because school kind of caught up with me and I was super busy and didn't have any time to film a video. But this week I am back and I am going to show you how I make my knitted headbands. I get lots of compliments from my friends on these, and because you all know I live in Canada, it gets very cold here, but I do not like to wear hats, so I find myself wearing these most of the time. So these are super simple and I learned to make these a couple years ago, and I think they're super cool because they have this kind of twist in the front and I just love them, and I have them in a million different colors. So stay tuned and I'll show you how to make this. So for this DIY, I'm going to be using one of my round looms, but you can totally use a straight loom as well. All you need to make sure is that you have 11 pegs to be able to make the headband. Then you're going to need some yarn, so try not to use super thin ones because then there'll be holes between each of your stitchings. I like to use chunky wool. And then you're just going to need scissors, a crochet hook, and a needle. So to start, you're just going to take your wool or your yarn or whatever you're using, and you're going to create a slip knot. So all I'm doing is going once around my two fingers and then tucking it underneath and then leaving a little loop and pulling the knot tight. So once you've created the slip knot, you're just going to put the loop of the knot onto one of your pegs, and then you're going to begin to cast onto 10 more pegs so that you have yarn on 11 pegs in total. And all you do is you go twice around, loop the yarn around each peg, and then move on to the next one. So I understand I knit kind of fast and it's really hard to slow it down for you guys to see it. So I encourage you to pause the video and then wait to get caught up and working at your own pace. So once you've casted on all 11 pegs, you're going to go back to where you started and you're going to take your crochet hook and lift the bottom loop up over the peg so that you only have one loop left on each peg. So as you can see here, I'm just taking my crochet hook, hooking the bottom one, and looping it up over the top. So once you get to the other side of your loom, we're going to do two stitches that I like to call the knit and the purl. So a knit is exactly what you just did. So you're taking that bottom loop and bringing it up over the top so that you only have one thread on each peg. Then you're going to bring your yarn down. You're going to put your crochet hook under the loop that's on your peg, and you want to hook that piece of yarn and pull it up. This creates a nice big loop on the top, and you just want to take it off and hook that other loop back on. So again, I'll show you here. I'm doing my knit, which you just go once around the peg, pull the string down, lift the loop up and over, and then the crochet hook goes behind it, pulls it up, takes the old loop off, and puts the new loop on. So once you get the hang of this process, it goes really quick. I'm not going to show you all the knitting that I do, but you are just going to continue this pattern until you get a long tail. So once you get to the last peg, you're just going to do one of the knit stitches, and then you're going to go back into a purl. So all the pegs that you do your purls on should line up throughout your whole headband. So every end of the loom, it's going to be one knit, and then all your purls are going to run every other peg. So this is the tail that I'm talking about, and the length of your tail is going to depend on how big your head is. So the measurement I use is I hold it right at the center of my head behind my ponytail, and I want it to come almost to the center of my forehead. So we are going to have a twist, so you don't want it to come all the way to the center, but maybe about an inch before. So we are going to start to create our twist now. So all I'm doing here is I'm counting to find peg number 6. And then you're going to take your crochet hook, you're going to take that loop off, and you're going to move it to one on the side. So it doesn't matter if you move it left or right. In mine, I just move it to the left. Then you are just going to continue doing your knit stitch and your purl stitch. The only thing that's different is you're only going to be doing one side of the headband. So you'll see here I'm doing my purl, and then when I get to that peg that we just took the loop off of, we're just going to go back in the other direction doing the exact same pattern. So you've continued the same pattern and now you have one side of your twist. So you only want your twist to be about 3 inches long. So again, we measured from the back behind our ponytail up to about 1 inch before the center of our forehead, and then that's where our twist is going to be. So then you just want to get a little extra yarn and just leave yourself a little bit of a tail, and you're actually going to cut the yarn, and then we're going to go work on the other side of the twist. So to start the other side of the twist, we're going to do exactly what we did at the beginning of the video. So you're going to create that slip knot, put it on one of the pegs, and then you're going to do your knit stitches. So once the slip knot is actually on the peg, you want to do one more knit stitch, and then you want to pull the 2 loops up and over. So if you just put the slip knot on and pull the bottom loop over the top, you won't actually have done a knit stitch, so you'll have a little break in your stitches when your headband's actually done. So once that first step is done, just continue the exact same pattern until this side of your twist is about the same as the other. So just like before, you want to cut a little tail of yarn, and then you want to take your knitting needle and you want to thread it with a piece of extra thread. So just cut it off your ball of yarn, or if you have a different color thread, that is super easy to use as well. Then you're just going to take your knitting needle with that piece of yarn and you're going to go up through every peg, so you're going through all the loops so that they're all on this one piece of yarn. Then you can remove this section all on that piece of yarn so you don't lose any of the loops. Then you're going to cross it over to the other side to create the twist, and you're going to put the loops back onto the loom, leaving that one peg empty in between your 2 sides of the twist. So once this section is back on the loom, you're going to continue to do the exact same pattern. But when you get to this empty peg in the middle, as you're doing your knit and your purl, you're just going to do 2 knit stitches around it, lift the loop up and over, and then you're going to continue with the purl. So because of the pattern and trying to do the knit stitches on the empty peg on this step, once you get to the corner and you turn around, make sure that every other peg is either the knit or the purl and you're staying consistent throughout. So to tie the 2 ends together, you are just going to take the other end of your headband and you're going to fold it over, and you want to line up the loops with the 11 pegs. So this part can be a little difficult, but just look for the loops and then line them all up. So once they're all lined up, so you have 2 pieces of yarn on all 11 pegs, you're going to cut the tail off the ball of yarn, thread your knitting needle, and then you're going to continue to sew the 2 ends together. So instead of going up this time, we are going to be threading down, and you are going to be pulling tight. You are going to continue this to the other side, and then you're going to turn around, come back the other way, and going down as well. So once you have gone all the way to the other end of the loom and back, you are just going to tie it off. So all I'm doing here is putting my knitting needle down, and then I'm creating a little slip knot. So in that loop, push the knitting needle back up and then pull tight. So if you're really worried about it coming undone, you can totally do a couple more knots just to make sure it's secure. And then you can cut that tail off. I always leave a little bit just in case it comes undone while I'm taking it off the loom. But then your headband is done, and all you can see I'm doing here is pulling it off my loom, and I can wear it now. Thank you guys so much for watching this week's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Also, be sure to check me out on Instagram and Twitter at Diyourchellef to see what kind of videos I'll be posting next Sunday. Bye!